It's another fantastic Wednesday night on YouTube.
All of a sudden, I'm looking at my ugly face. I'm like, oh, it scared me. It scared myself.
That's what you get the camera too close.
Right?
But yeah. So thanks to the audience. We're back for another Wednesday night Tech Talk Live. So if you're having any automotive problems, throw them up here and maybe we can help you out. I'm looking a bit red. I got a lot of sun today. So, and I'm wiped out. It just sucked the life out of me. So that's where I'm at today. But yeah, Professor P is back from his mini vacay.
Yeah, well, the kids started school last week, so we have a tradition that, before their first day of school, we go out and do something fun. And then it started on Thursday, so Wednesday night I took them bowling, and we went out for ice cream, and it was fun stuff. It's stuff you got to do,
Yeah, well, that's how you become the world's greatest dad.
Right, that's how
you dad. So yeah, you got to be in the running for that every year,
right?
And get it eliminated somewhere along the way. You know, you got an F on a report card. I'm no longer eligible for world's greatest dad.
That's right, because I become dad.
Yes, yeah, world's strictest dad. Okay, so I guess the rundown. We got Lars was in here at 4:30, right after I put the post up. So
wow.
Yeah, John Wilburn, Bruce Cultgen asking, what's the topic tonight? Well, we have a couple of topics. We usually throw a couple of them in there, and we take questions from the audience. So if you have a question, throw it up there.
Yep.
Big Block 402, Miss Catchy, Clayton's Toolbox, Buick Smith is here, Mohawk 62, Jason's Garage and RV Repair, Fab Race Mod Repeat, hello from Northeast Dragway. We got everybody's favorite YouTube leper, Slant Day the Garage, Sup-Suckers. Danny Boyd is here. Clint Street Machines, Tall Garage. Let's see, Levi's Backyard Performance, a Mama M3. I'm telling you, you got to change that back. It gets me every time. Bill McKyska is here. The Schmidt Show Garage is here. What's up, fellas? Out here chilling in the shop with Dizzy. He brought his intake over and a new nitrous kit to look at. I gave him some gummies. He's getting dizzy. So,
hey, real quick, what's his number? What's his count? Is he close to the 500 or how's he doing?
I don't know where. Where are you at on this, Barkley?
Yeah, what's your number?
Are you up to 250 yet? 300? Okay, Clayton's Toolbox asked the first question of the night.
What?
When a performance company says power range, e.g. 2,500 to 6,500, does that mean the peak power is at 6,500? Where would peak power be?
It really comes because a lot of times these are camshafts for, they'll say 305 to say 350. It really depends on the cubic inch of the engine because the camshaft is not just, it's not going to work the same as a 305 and a 350. So typically that range in there, your power is going to be within that range, depending on, even if you have like say a 422 and you put the cam in it, it's definitely going to be at like 4,000. The same cam in a 305 is going to be up near the 65 mark. So really it's just telling you that the power range is in that range somewhere, and that's where it's going to be.
And that's peak power for peak torque and peak horsepower, right?
Usually 6,500 means it's on, that's already the parabolic before it starts to fall down typically. So the peak,
right. That would be your peak horsepower, though, would be up around there. Your peak torque would be considerably lower, but it'll still fall within that range.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be within that. Peak torque and peak horsepower is going to be within those two ranges. That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Who else is asking questions? I haven't seen any. So Buick Smith is asking me, Dallas, what year did Buick start using the larger Rochester 2 barrels on the 350s? Are the intakes different? Man, I wish you would have never asked me that because I know absolutely nothing about those larger. I mean, it was a 2 barrel. Like I knew it would take up the same amount of space as the other 2 barrels I threw in the trash can. So that's about all I got from it.
Yeah, right. Do I need to take away your Buick card? You take your Buick,
man, I don't know. Actually, to tell you the truth, it's probably the same year as all of them changed. Probably. So it'd be like Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, all of them would have changed. Probably to that larger 2 barrel, which is the 500 CFM 2GC, but or no, dual jet. I think dual jet. But either way, I'm the worst person to ask about 2 barrel carburetors.
I'm actually pretty good at them. Oh, he's at 238.
238. Where did you see that at? Oh, there we
Above
go.
that.
I got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So keep hammering at it, my friend. You're
If
gonna
we got
make
a
it.
mod in here, yeah. If we got a mod, post up his thing. We need to get some more likes to him. We got to see this matchup. I want to see this happen. That'd be a hell of a race.
Yeah, it would be fun. I mean, I like, if you guys didn't know, I've known Barkley now, I guess probably going on 4 years. And Barkley was brought in to replace the track manager at Jeffers Motorsports Park, which is still the same track as Skelton Raceway. But Barkley and I didn't get off on the best of terms, right? Like, we weren't like homeboys or nothing like that. And then it was like, I don't know, maybe a year in, and both of us like kind of started respecting the other guy a lot. Like, man, Barkley's willing to kill it to just come out here and make this work. And then he was looking at me saying the same. And the next thing you know, we're like, bro friends, just freaking crushing on each other. Like, dude, I couldn't get this done without, I couldn't get this done without Barkley. And Barkley's like, yeah, we couldn't have a good weekend without you. Like, it was a good time. And
that's awesome.
So, but ever since then, we've just been, I don't know, pretty good pals. So, and here's John Wilburn is throwing up the link to the Schmidt Show Garage.
Yeah.
So awesome. If you haven't subbed, get over there and sub to Barkley so that he can make it to the No Name Nationals. And then he's got a call out with some deadbeat guy with a T-Bird.
And John, give us a time check to the No Name Nationals to officially Thursday night. What's a time check for that?
Are we less than 30 yet? I think it's about time I broke out some tools and maybe aired up the tires in my car. It's been sitting in the garage since last year. I'm not even going to change the plugs.
I was just out there last night, just right now, actually, before I came in here, was just checking the tranny fluid, and I dropped the pan, took a look at it, put it back on, and did all the necessary stuff. So yeah, I'm getting ready, getting anxious.
Well, it's about that time, right?
Yeah, we're getting close. John normally is pretty quick with this this time check to the No Name Nationals. So
let's see. All right. Well, you know what? I guess we'll just start cracking open the discussion for this evening. And Professor P and I have discussed that we need to actually go over what is required at the No Name Nationals for a tech. I know John Wilburn just did this on Friday, but this is going to be more focused on if you want to run a car that is fast, like generally faster than 639, you need to have quite a bit more safety equipment. And it can't be just some cheapy stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like you're taking your life in your own hands, okay?
Yeah.
But then not just yours, but the person in the other lane as well. And that's where it gets to be a little sketch. So
also too, I want to go over this too, because there's a lot of tracks here, especially where I live now, that there is no tech, and you'd be surprised at how fast these guys are running to what little stuff they have. So this will also help you out too, so that way you can be safe at the track, not just at any event, but just in general, because cars are definitely getting faster. I'm seeing street cars run, into the high fives now, like Vets and Challengers. So this will definitely help you out.
So John Wilbur is saying there's 35 days, 3 hours, and 51 minutes left for you to get to work. So I think I guess I probably need to get to work.
That's actually it would be 35 days, 3 hours, and 50 minutes right now, actually.
Oh, yes. The time is just slipping away. All right.
He actually, what's funny about John is he did it at 51 minutes when he posted at 7:08, expecting it to take a minute to get done, but it took 2, so I had to correct it. So there it is.
Yeah, well, so Danny Boyd's in here. He said, I thought I subbed when it was James and James, subbed to Schmidt Show Garage just now. Dig that Cutlass 74, it looks like. And that thing is fast. It is fast. But no, the James and James show is not the same show. It's not the same YouTube channel. Schmidt Show Garage is Barkley Schmidt, and he is attempting to get to the No Name Nationals this year for the first go round. The James and James show changed to another channel name like SRC Garage or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. So Mama M3 is, how important is it to balance pistons and rods on a stock 318?
what's the RPM? If it's stock and you're only going to 5,000 RPM, usually just take the stock stuff and slam it in there, and it's good to go.
It's close enough, yeah.
It's close enough. If it's an internally balanced one, I tend to take sometimes at least just get them a little closer. If it's externally balanced, just don't even worry about it. Usually the stock stuff over the counter, because you're not going to RPM that thing high enough to have any worries about it.
The centripetal force is what causes the need for the balance. Okay, so the higher the RPM, the more load it starts putting on the crank when it's out of balance. And what you'll find is when they're out of balance, you might put forces of 150 to 400 extra pounds across the thrust of that crank, right? And that's where the necessary need of balance comes in when you really turn them up.
Yeah,
And
it's the RPM that kills it, and it gets exponentially too. I mean, every 1,000 RPM, you'll go from like 300 extra pounds to 800 extra pounds just with 1,000 RPM, because it gets way up there.
Let's see. Miss Cat G is saying regarding balancing. Did not Smokey use a clear sump? And he said, paraphrase, the amount of oil wrapped around it all. Don't worry, in stock.
Yeah, whenever I balance, okay, there is some truth to that, but whenever I balance an engine, especially when I weigh it, I account for that, because at different RPMs, you're going to have it's got a film, so you actually add 4 grams, because remember, bob weight is different because you're dealing with 2 different up on top, and then a mass down below. One's going up and down, one's reciprocating and rotating, so they're different masses. But I had 4 grams for the oil, and that does play into account. So yes, if it's stock, don't worry about it too much. I agree with that.
Yeah, and then the oil will
Because
make it out
RPM.
of balance because it'll carry a bunch of oil around it. But see, when you start turning them up and you balance them, at that point, you should start looking at an aftermarket oil pan, because it's going to be worth 40 horsepower by itself.
The
The other
windage,
thing, yeah, the other thing is you need to start controlling that windage. So you need to have a crank scraper and most likely a windage tray at a minimum.
Yeah.
But
I would start with the windage tray first,
mhm.
because that would help out a lot more. And then the scraper would be like if you really want the next level. And then if you want the next level, go to dry sump.
All right. Okay, so Buick Smith is saying, what is the Snell rating on the helmets again, please? I just got this question last night, matter of fact, from another participant. Okay, let me explain something here. The Snell rating for the helmets, you're looking at SA 2020. Okay, the helmets generally go in 5-year cycles, is when they update the Snell. So the next year will be the Snell 2025, and that'll be the helmet that everybody's going to end up moving to, right? But you'll have like a grace period of like, say, 3 years or whatever, where your 2020 is still good. But the Snell ratings, when you go look up helmets, you're going to find all kinds of helmets. There'll be SA 2020, and then there will be M 2020. Okay. Now, a motorcycle helmet, you can generally use in a street car, and the tech guys would normally let you slide with that in a street car. Okay. The motorcycle helmet is intended just for a crash, 100% just a crash. Okay. Now, in the racing community, the problem is if you are in a car that's like a race purpose-built race car and you're in a crash, of course you've crashed, but then you have the possibility of fire, right? And that helmet is not rated. A motorcycle helmet is, I will say again, not rated for fire. It's not been tested in fire. It's not been approved for fire. That's why it got a motorcycle rating. The helmets are considerably cheaper for the motorcycle community. And if you have a street car, it's most likely going to be just fine. But the worst case scenario is you being in a street car with a motorcycle helmet on, you get in an accident and you catch on fire. The helmet is likely going to burn. Okay. And you're wearing it on your face and head. So FYI, you do what's necessary and what you feel is best for your wallet. And, but that would be like the worst thing that could possibly happen is we got to peel one of these helmets off somebody's face that's on fire.
That would suck.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Levi saying he asked about a Turbo 400 problem.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either.
Post it again. We don't want to back up, but Oh, John Wilburn talks about it right there. So yeah, 765 and slower, you can run a motorcycle helmet. That's I couldn't remember the exact number.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So Levi's Backyard Performance is saying Turbo 400 has 2 reverse gears and 2 forward gears, cable adjusted properly. Going to triple check, but if it is, any thoughts? Okay. Does it have a trans brake?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that if it's got a trans brake.
The trans brake is usually what causes crap like this.
Yeah. And if it's a Pro Tree or a Sportsman type of trans brake, those are 2 different ones. One you can put it in reverse and it'll actually go in reverse. You can put it in neutral, hit the button. Where the Pro style, you have to use the button. It will not go into reverse unless you hit the button. That's the kind I have on mine. So I have to use the button to go in reverse.
Right. So the way the trans brake works, if those of you that are unfamiliar with it, is a trans brake will lock first and reverse gear together.
Yeah.
When you hold the button down, right? So you can't normally do. I don't think it'll trans brake in reverse, will it? It'll just
if it's
in reverse.
Yeah, if it's in reverse, if you put it like manually in reverse, on mine, I have to actually physically hit the button to go in reverse.
Right. But that's because it's locking first and reverse together when you're in reverse, and then you got to hold the button down, which bypasses first and allows it to go in reverse.
That's right, because I'm not manually put the selector is not putting fluid to first.
But it won't trans brake in reverse. It'll only trans brake in first, but it does have a problem with being in reverse because reverse is now, let's think of it like hardwired directly to first gear, right? And that's what the problem is. And so when you push the button, that solenoid locks it into first, just like when you drop it down into in first gear.
Oh, he says it's not a Pro brake. That's why you have 2 reverse gears. Is it in neutral and reverse? You're going to have, if it's a Sportsman style, reverse will actually be reverse, and then you can put it neutral, and sometimes, since nothing's selected, you can hit the button and then it will do reverse. It'll engage it. I've seen some of those that will do that. So I if you're going to get a trans brake, the Pro brake is the better one to get. They're typically faster, and they will engage. They run at a slightly higher pressure, and they will they dump the valve faster. Because there's no spring on it. You're not fighting a spring. It's literally just a valve that goes back and forth. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
that's all right. You're fine. Yeah. So and John puts in the answer here, 764 and quicker. So that's where we're talking about the Snell helmets. Let's see. Fabrice Mon Repeat is saying, Shane, Wendy's trick question. What's your opinion on the screen style versus the louver style?
Okay, I've run them both, and they both have the pros and cons. Okay, so we'll start with the louver style. The louver style, you can typically get closer because it's you can hammer it and you can get your fit. But with that, it scrapes off and it's really good. You're going to have multiple louvers there. But because oil can get back under, cornering or whatever, you can have oil come back up. I like the screen style because you can mold it all the way around. So instead of just having 5 louvers there, or 4 or 3, it's literally the screen all the way. You can get it really close, and it's a 2-way style. The problem with that is that it's 2-way. So it's you got to get it right. I personally run the screen style because I have a crank scraper, and then I have screen, and then I have another crank scraper. So I have 2 crank scrapers. Well, I have a mild crank scraper, and then the full crank scraper and the screen in between. That's just the way I set it up. I like the screen style.
Well, look at this. SSR Performance is popping in here. What's up, everyone? So SSR, if you didn't know, is what used to be the James and James show.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, and they're going to be at Sykeston head hunting for the 28-10-5. And they've got that Nova sorted. So it should be good. Yeah. Bring your big boy pants for 28-10-5. I'll bring mine, but I'll also bring a diaper because I'm pretty much going to be probably the slowest car in the field, it sounds like. Okay. Let's see. And John Wilburn chimes in here with some very salty answer here. The CRT Cope Racing transmission trans brake is the best way to not find out about trans brake problems.
Agreed. I like that trend. In fact, I have number 1.
Or, hey, Dylan Levi, I got a totally awesome concept for you. I race foot brake, and I don't have to worry about this crap. It's not.
But he's got a turbo. So having a
Yeah.
turbo, it's advantageous to have a trans brake because that
Oh
way
yeah,
you can
for
pull
sure.
it up. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get it. He's got to get it on the brake to build a boost. So, all right. Well, also, I guess besides the helmet that we're throwing out there, we need to go over some of the safety equipment that's required to run 639 and faster. Okay.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, it's not like your normal stuff where you just got to have the, like, generally when you're looking at it and you're going to go race down the track, you're going to want pants. Okay. You're pretty much going to have pants all the time. Shorts are not approved. I know it sucks because it's hot and all that stuff, but pants, if you think about it, especially for those of you that want to wear like Under Armour shorts or something, if you, even if you have Under Armour workout pants, okay, this is terrible. You want like pants, cotton pants or wool pants. The reason for wool is fire retardant, okay, fire resistant. Cotton is not. But if there is a fire, you won't be catching on fire. If you use nylon pants, that stuff is made of plastics. It will literally go up, and they will be removing the nylon from your skin before they take you to the hospital. And I'll tell you something that's absolutely horrid. Okay. How you remove the nylon after you've been burned is they will hold you down and brush it off like with a brush, like a plastic bristle brush. And it has got to be one of the most horrible experiences in life after you've just got second or third degree burns. So I guess third degree, you wouldn't be sweating it because it wouldn't even hurt. The nerves are all burned up.
So I'm going to go full John Wilburn here. I got sent some pictures for this is Barkley, Angie, and Dizzy. So they're I'm not sure if I'm going to show the what they're working on, but here they are, all smiling, all smiles, right? And yeah, they're right now doing this. This is them. So if you can see that right there.
What are they doing? Cooking out?
No, they're putting stuff on a car. It looks like an intake manifold.
Oh, that's Dizzy's parts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Dizzy's parts. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna, I got sent this. So I'm gonna say, look what Dizzy's got right there. Oh, you see the little solenoid?
Yeah, Dizzy's trying to. He's sprucing up the Angry Vagrant. It's now going to be a, I don't know, like what you would go beyond angry, the insane vagrant.
Right, angry. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's what they got. So that's what they're doing right now.
Well, looks like fun. Barkley and Dizzy Izzy are going to get it tuned up, and the Angry Vagrant's going to be kicking ass and taking names this year.
If that's not a smiling face, I don't know what is, man.
Yeah, he's a happy camper.
Yeah.
All right. So Buick Smith says, when installing a crank scraper, will the pan gasket take up the difference, or do you need to modify the gasket?
Okay. When I put a crank scraper on, I don't put it between two gaskets. I actually weld it onto the pan. That's how I do mine.
And Buick Smith messes with Buick's got a deep skirted block. So you're going to run into a little bit of a problem here. I had to figure this out because nobody else has an answer for this. You RTV that crank scraper directly to the block, okay, and then let it set up. Hold it in place with some bolts. And then once it's set up, then you pull the bolts out, you lay your gasket down, and the gasket will take up the difference between the, essentially, it's just like where the timing cover doesn't fit exactly flush, right? It'll take that up. So
just like a big block Mopar. That's how I do a big block Mopar. Is I actually do two gaskets for a big block because it's such a deep skirted, deal. Mm-hmm. But if you come straight across it, and go up, and it works really good like that.
Well, food for thought.
Yeah.
Let's see. Levi's saying the trans brake isn't even hooked up at the moment. That's why you have two reverses, dude. You need to get that thing hooked up to the button, also so that you can put it in reverse.
Yeah, and also too, I really think that at this point, I think it's a cable adjustment deal is what you're having issues with. What I would do is I'd put it in park first on the transmission, put it in park, put it on there, and then that way you can kind of just adjust it and move it in and out easily. Then go all the way down to first gear, and then see the difference because there might be multiple holes there too. Depending on which shifter you have, they have 2-inch throws and they have 3-inch throws. And sometimes I've seen the two cables don't interchange. So that could be it too. But I really think it's going to be an adjustment issue.
So
Personally,
that cable adjustment, that thing used to baffle me when I was like a young teenager, and I figured out something that's actually pretty cool. There's just a cotter pin, and you're supposed to slide in there, it holds it in place, right?
don't do that.
What you do is you don't cotter pin it,
Yeah, push
right?
it in.
You use the cotter pin when you're moving it around, and don't flare it, but you put it in park, like he's saying. I always check it in the most extreme cases. So park, first gear,
Yeah.
all right, and when you have that cable adjusted correctly, and it's got all the correct hardware holding it on, not some BS stuff that you made up, but the correct hardware, that cable, the little tab should literally go in there with no tension whatsoever. It should fall right out when you pull on it, and then you should be able to put it straight in without any effort whatsoever.
The only one I've ever seen could have some tension would be park, because that's why I always tend to start in park, because that's going to be your most extreme. Go to first, and then I don't even put it in there. I hold it in with my thumb, and I have someone up top, and then that way when they go back over, then I move it in and out. Then I just slightly adjust it. Go to the second gear, adjust, and then if you're starting to get out of adjustment by drive, that means you're in the wrong hole. Go back to first and start again, and pick a different hole, and then try it again. And usually, for first, second drive, or drive, second, first, depending on how it is. By the time you get to neutral, you'll know 100% if you're in the correct setting, and it's really simple from that. Then move to park and just see where it's at, and then you can split the difference between the two, because typically a rooster comb that's inside, that's your selector, that's in the transmission, has got plenty of slop in there. So just because it's stopped at one spot doesn't mean that you can move it a little bit, and it's not going to click into a gear, because
the other thing that used to kick a lot of people's asses was that they'd have like a Hurst shifter, they put a B&M cable kit in it.
Yes.
And that's not the same. The throws on the shifter are different than the detents on the actual equipment. That if you use the cable kit for B&M, it's got a different angle and a different circumference that it changes, right?
Yeah. They range between 2 to 3 inches is really what the throw is, how long the cable is and how long it actually moves. So there's many, so you could just check it, put a measuring tape on it, measure the other one. That's a quick way to do it, but a lot of people just put the cable in.
John Wilbert says he's heard interesting rumors for 28.10.5 this year. It's going to be a show. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
So SSR Performance is saying, so my oil-soaked pair of Levi's is bad? No, man. It's totally awesome if you're wanting to put on a light show for everyone.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I looked up because I like to subscribe to all the people in SSR Performance. There's I put in SSR Performance. I've got many different performances, SSR Performance. Is there any way someone could put it up there? Because I like to subscribe.
It's the James and James show. You've already probably subscribed to them.
Oh, so do I hit James and James show, or did it now?
No, they changed their name to SSR Performance. But if you originally had done the James and James show and you subscribed to them in 2022, is that the first year? Yeah, that's the first year.
Yeah.
Then you're good to go.
Yeah. Well, I can't find it, so yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so Levi's saying there's only one guess as to who's winning 28.10.5, and a certain 6-cylinder guy has the correct answer. So is he calling the Nelsons as to win the 28.10.5 this year? I think they might have their hands full.
Oh, the Nelsons are racing?
As far as I know.
Oh, good. Awesome.
Let's see here. Levi's Backyard Performance, John, unless someone has left. Okay, maybe that's. Let's see. They're just chatting amongst each other. All right. And Dead Pedal Motors has showed up for tonight. So welcome, Dead Pedal Motors. So Miss Cat G says, are Beehive springs needed for under 7,000 RPM?
No, Beehive springs are they have their place. It's a progressive rate spring, so that way you can have a little less seat pressure and you have a little less mass, and it gets it gets higher faster, plus you're not moving as much retainer, and then you have less stacking height. So on a spring, as it compresses, it's going to go up and it's going to stack. It's going to go up. It's going to stack, and so it's going to have these little tips on it. With the beehives, it's more linear, and we've actually Dallas here has actually got some beehives. We did some was it beehives or did we do conicals on yours?
No,
I think
it was
beehives.
It was beehives. You and I sat down and worked the math on the whole thing. And the whole idea was to pull as many grams of weight as we could out of the valve train. The other thing was that there was multiple caveats to it, but one of it was a lot of the weight, because see, when you get that beehive spring and it gets smaller at the top, it's got a really small retainer, and all that weight right off the top of the valve is multiplied by the rocker arm geometry. So if you get like a 1.6 to 1 rocker, well, let's say that 30 grams equals what? We'll just call it 1.5 rocker. So it should be 1.5 times on the other side. You pulled out 30 grams. It should be 45 grams on the other side of weight, right? And so it makes a huge difference when you start pulling all that weight out. The other thing was, when you have a beehive spring, since it's a progressive spring, the spring rate goes up the more you compress it, just like a cargo coil in a car. The neat thing about it was, it's only a single spring, so you didn't have to have multiple springs and then pull the inner springs to break in a cam. You literally just had one spring, so there was no inner spring to pull.
Yeah,
makes for a lot of I don't know. It's just thinking your way around the problems, I guess.
What's funny is that while you were talking about that, SSR Performance posted up their thing, and I wasn't subscribed to it. So yeah, so there you go. You just got another subscriber. I wasn't subscribed. I don't know why. So yeah. So there was talk about up here. Let's talk about says.
Oh well, we didn't even finish up what's needed for the safety equipment to run 639 and faster.
Yeah, so, but we got thing up here. We'll get that in a minute. We got 2 hours.
What thing did we got up here?
It says let's get the rumor mill going, John. What's in the works? And then Levi says, no, the Nelsons guessed who would win, and I think they're right. I never saw. So who do the Nelsons think that is going to win? Let's talk about that, because I haven't seen it. I haven't
seen it either.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I haven't watched it at all this summer. The Nelsons guessed who would win, and I think they're right. Who's their guess?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Yeah,
I'll tell you what I know about the rumor mill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking that there's a lot of things I haven't done to my T-Bird, right? It has no header extensions on it. So that's another 20 horse right there. And I'm thinking I might be able to game this thing to where I can maybe knock that thing down to a serious contender numbers, being NA. So I'm going to try.
Awesome.
We're going to see.
Yeah.
But I haven't done header extensions, and also I haven't run E85, which is another 10 horse in the bag.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I might try that. Who knows? I got enough injector for it now.
Oh, okay. So Levi says that they said that a GM will win this year, not a single person. Okay. Okay. So he said, so probably because there was didn't a Mopar win the first year in the 2010-50?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then a Ford.
Right.
So that makes sense then. So now a GM. Okay. The
possibility is high.
Possibility is high.
But there's a lot more Mopars coming this year, really fast ones.
Yes.
So you might the numbers might not be in there for the GM guys this year.
Yeah, and not mine either. So mine's okay. But speaking of which, I did my very first small tire event. We should talk about that. Yes,
yeah, sure.
I did.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah. So I went to Pickwick this last weekend, and I did a small tire event, and it was a no prep. And if you've never been to Pickwick race, literally it's like a 590 foot track, and it goes uphill at the very end, and you go through the beams are basically at the top of the hill, and then you kind of go over this lump, and it's like an old airport. And when they say no prep, they really mean no prep. It's quite a ways out there. So I went out there and I walked the tracks. I'm about to go down this track, spraying a whole bunch of juice, and I've never even been down the track. So I walked it back and forth, kicked the rocks off, just look for holes and whatnot, like you should do. And so I guessed at my tune-up. funny enough, I drawed second, right, in left lane. Left lane's the worst lane because there's a dip in it. And the person who I drew also has never done, it's his very first no prep race also, right?
Okay.
So
Two newbies.
two
What can
newbies,
what can go wrong here?
right, side by side. And I wanted to meet the guy who I was going to race because I'm like, if he's like some knucklehead, I was just gonna be like, he can win. I'm not going to risk my carp against a knucklehead, and he had a nice car, so it was like he even said, he goes, "Hey man, we got 2 nice cars, just keep it in your lane." I said, "I was going to say the same thing to you," so we're good. And right. And yeah, we went up there, we did a burnout, did our whole thing, and then we launched, and then after 100 foot, we both went up and just started spinning, and I had to pedal 3 times. 3 times. I still got the win, but I could hear him. But he said that he saw me go up, and he went up at the same time. We both got off, got back on it, and mine has an instant turn on, where I guess he has a second delay for his to come on, or half a second. And I jumped back out, but I never saw him at all. And then so I won, and then my car extended too fast for this track. I wanted to hit and then extend as it goes out. I had it really set up for like a prep track. Well, I'll admit it. I did, the place was dirty, and I didn't want to get I had my jacket on, and I was going to change my shock settings, and I just reached up underneath there and I grabbed it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's right, because I was on number 3. So click. Okay, that's number 10. Yeah, it wasn't. It was number 1. Number 1 on mine is the softest. So
it didn't go good at all.
It didn't go good. In fact, I pulled first, number 1, and I was in the right lane, and it went about like, we're going to do John Wilburn again here.
Okay.
Yeah. So as soon as it ends, and here, and so this is, watch if you see it.
Yeah.
See how it's just spun, and then it went sideways right there.
Yeah, kicked the butt in around. Yep.
Yeah, and I had it on I had it on 20% out, and then it just went up, and I felt it come up, and then it unloaded the suspension, and then by the time the nitrous came all the way in, it was already spinning all the way out, and I was just like, man. And I was taking power out of it because the track was bad. So, but there you go. So that was my first. I didn't go out in the first round, so I was 50% better than everybody else. So I was good with that.
Well, especially for your first event, for something you've never done before, that's completely different, right?
Dude, it's lower than street racing. Like, I've been a street racer. We both have been street racers our whole lives. This is totally different because I think there's more traction on the street than there was at that track.
I'm sure there is, because the track being unprepped, it's got that layer of rubber that it smooths the whole surface out, right? On the street, you got like the jaggedy concrete, and then some old crusty asphalt, and usually it gets weather beaten, and all the rock is at the surface, so it makes it kind of grip pretty good. But I just remember in the 90s when it was like, you can't pull a wheelie on the street. That was impossible.
Coke can. I can do a Coke can. Remember that?
Yeah. I got 3/4 race cam and a 4-speed center force clutch.
Right. Yeah. So that was my very first deal, but I wanted to get up there, and really what I wanted to do is, I hadn't done an instant green in a while. So that was good to get a little practice on the instant green again. So,
well, that's what I guess I should be saying on here, talking trash to everybody, is like, you better be ready for the instant green, because this is not the Tiddlywinks green. This is it's not green, and then all of a sudden you got flash.
Yeah, it's not like it's going to get green. It doesn't change green. It's green. You go.
Yep. As soon as you're into the beams, you better be ready for anything.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you can do it.
Yeah.
But SSR Performance says, I'm going to beat everyone to the barbecue nachos. I know that much. Dude, well, you know what? Hey, bring some of them barbecue nachos, because I think I'm going to be one of those people that does the community cookout again this year. So you can just come on by, grab something right off the grill, and start chowing down.
I think we're going to do the same thing. I think I'm going to cook up some pulled pork, and then
pulled pork, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to heat it.
You did something last year. No, you didn't.
I did surf and turf, man. I had steak and shrimp, man. Yeah.
Steak and shrimp. That's right.
And remember that steak? It was it's a trick that I'm not going to tell everyone, but man, was that the most tender, awesome steak ever? Yes.
Oh yeah, it was good, dude. It was really good. And you know what sucked is like I waited all weekend for that, and right when the food comes out, so like right when the burnout contest started, remember? And we're
Yes.
like, oh, what do we do? And you're like,
Let's eat
just
fast.
chow down. Like, oh man, I really wanted to savor this.
Yeah. Because on Friday night, make sure that you're ready to go and eat because the
Early.
burnout competition, you don't want to miss that. That was
you
awesome.
don't want to miss it. That is the best.
Yeah, my kids are looking forward to it. Cash and Roxy are going to come again this year, and they're already talking about the burnout contest. I told them about Homer. I showed them some pictures of Homer, and they're like, "Oh, that's going to be the awesomest thing in the world."
I like the demo derby headers on it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
All right. Well, back to the safety equipment required.
Yep.
So besides just having pants, all that stuff, when you're running 639 and faster, you're required to have pants, fire retardant pants, fire retardant jacket. You need a neck brace, right? At a minimum, it's the, what do they call that thing? The foam neck brace deal.
Yeah, I call it a donut, is what I call
donut.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
it's
then
the one that goes around and it clips together.
you're technically required a full face helmet.
Yes.
At those speeds. Okay. And then the other thing
put
that's
your visor down. You got to put your visor down, otherwise it doesn't work.
Right. I'm terrible with the visor down. I can't see with it down. It fogs up and I'm just like, oh, I can't handle it. The other thing is you're gonna have to have driving gloves. And so make sure you try them on before you get them. Because they're generally size small, right? So if it'll say large, it's one size smaller, so it'll be like medium.
Yeah.
So there you go, horse collar. Oh,
yeah. Also, too, talk about everyone forgets this, and it's the padding on the roll bar. Everyone forgets that. When I did some tech up there at Verona, and that was the one thing that I was like, dude, you got to put some padding on this thing, So what's it? Is it 25 1 padding, or is it 45? Let's see SFI rating on that. Yeah,
I want to say the SFI rating stuff. The 25 is the top fuel stuff, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So maybe it's the 45 one. You got to have 45, and then after 530, I think it's the 25. I don't think they make it in steps. I think it just goes right to that one.
Yeah. Well, the neat thing is when you do the roll bar padding and it starts to get up to the like the fast number stuff. Like first, you can start off with like a pool noodle.
Yeah.
Right? No one's going to care. No one's going to care. You put a zip tie on there, just keeps you from getting banged up. But when you get up to like the 639 and faster stuff, the stuff is legitimately hard.
Yes.
Like hard.
I think it's harder than steel. I have some out there. And I'm like,
that's exactly when I first got it out of the box. One, it weighs nothing. So I took it out and I'm like, man, this stuff there's no give to this at all. And you're like beating it on things. You're like, man, this is like plastic tube.
Yeah. Mine was like a half shell. Was yours also a half shell too?
Half shell. With that's the neat thing about it. It has like sticky tape on it.
Oh yeah.
Like the really sticky tape. And when you put it on, it's on there.
That's it.
Yeah.
Don't move it.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I guess also, besides the head and neck restraint, which somebody put up here, or the horse collar or the donut, besides all of that basic equipment, you need to start looking at things where if you're running 639 and faster, you need to start having that window net. Window net is mandatory at that kind of ET. The other thing that you're looking at that is specific to that ET is you need a chassis certification at that point to make sure that your roll cage is installed properly and that the car, when you bought it from the hillbilly down the street, didn't just weld the underside of the cage and then leave all of the gaps at the top, because that happens a lot.
All the time. Yes. Yeah. Here's the thing about the window net, though, is that it has to go to the bottom bar, to the top bar, and it has to lock in. You know how many times I used to do this is they would have their down bar, where a lot of people put the hinge on it, and the window net will go to that. Well, it can't because it will slide. It has to go to the bottom one or have a restraint down there at the bottom, so that way it can't slide.
Yeah. The other neat thing okay, a lot of this stuff you always go like, why are they making it so difficult? A lot of this stuff has been written in blood. So the window net, and I'll give you the back history of the window net. The window net is for a rollover crash, is what it's
Mhm.
for, and it's to
Hands.
keep you from like your hands and arms going outside the vehicle and getting cut off. Is
Mhm.
the big one.
Yep.
Once you start going faster, so let's say because the next ET where you're going to have to break it is 850 in the quarter.
Yep.
Okay, then you start looking at arm restraints where
Mhm.
you can't move your arms like a certain distance, and then it's tied down, right? And the whole reason for that is your hands can't go out the window if they're tied into place. So, yep, but a lot of neat, interesting things. A lot of it's just all built on safety and history of people getting killed or run over or sandwiched or on fire.
Yeah, here's the thing on how I did my car is that when I did the welds at the very top is I cut a hole in the bottom and I dropped the cage down, finished the welds, and then propped it up and then put the plate on there and then dropped it back down. And what I did is when I cut it, I just didn't cut a hole and drop it down. I actually cut it like a U, folded that metal down, and then welded the top, pushed it back up, put the plate, then welded it back, the plate to it, and then welded the part that we did to it. That's the only way you're going to get the top correct. And it's as simple as doing on top. Now in San Diego, if you didn't weld the top, if you welded a gusset in that corner, that was allowed. I'm not sure what they allow here, but I do know in California, if you had, especially on the halo that came across the top, if you didn't get those two, you could just put a bar in there, a gusset, and it was okay.
My way is a little easier. I just found a chassis shop and I dropped it off and I said, call me when it's done.
That's the best way.
That was, but it was expensive.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But I didn't own a welder. It wasn't worth like all the money to buy all that equipment and then try to figure it all out myself and then screw it up. Cause see, I had to cut one out. I had it done at Billy Bob's wannabe NASCAR track,
Mm-hmm.
fabricator, and none of it was certified. So that was like $1,000 out the window, you know?
Yeah.
And so I actually just took it to a chassis shop where it was guaranteed to pass tech and picked her up 3 months later, I guess. So, I mean, that's to me was the easiest, especially since it was chromoly, right? So chromoly got to TIG into place. It's like really hard. So I didn't even bother with it. Okay. All right. Well, what else are we looking at here for anything faster than 630? Required ET required safety equipment. I think that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah. It's basically on you. And then obviously, your blow shields, your tranny shields. But in my case, I have
Oh, that's right.
a
You do.
case.
Yeah, you have. That's some of the stuff. The
Yeah.
certified bell housing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Generally, the SFI certified bell housing has to be installed. You got to have a SFI flex plate.
Yep. And a trans shield.
You got to have a trans shield or blanket.
Or I have my transmission is SFI certified. It's a
Okay.
J&W. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's steel lined aluminum, so it's a certified case just for it's a power glide for a dragster, so that way they don't have to put a blanket on a dragster.
And then you got the only other thing I can think of that's SFI required is a SFI required dampener, because you're going to
Yes,
turn a lot of RPM for that ET.
yes. And if you run an AT, I remember they have a life, they have a shelf life on those because the rubber will go bad in those, and you have to send them back in to get them recertified. Just know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So since mine hasn't been recertified, we'll move on to the next thing and distract everyone. Miss Catgy says best street clutch 500 horsepower.
It really comes down to weight. 500 horsepower at that point, you can really just get like just a step above stock, and you'd be fine. I never had any problems with 500 horse and over the counter clutches.
Street clutch, like
Yeah,
I'm. If you're not talking big time horsepower,
because it's going to spin the tires, so you're going to be fine.
yeah. The thing I'd look at is probably like a good center force clutch. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason why they were on just about every street application. in the 70s muscle car area, and that's
They work.
because they work. Yeah. And then they also think the thing is they got these weights on the diaphragm that allow it to apply more pressure the more RPM you turn.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to take a healthy leg.
Yeah. That's
Because
true.
the set blowers is no joke, but
Yeah.
they do work pretty good. Now, if you start talking full race applications, I'm going to point you at like Ram clutch or a Zoom clutch, and then centered iron, and then ones that do
Ace or
the application. Yeah.
or spec racing, but for what you're doing, and it says the key word I saw was street clutch. That means hard tire. That means that really, honestly, you could pretty much, and it's a 4,000-pound vehicle. I really wouldn't worry about too much. I would find a decent, really good over-the-counter clutch that you can, change out. I wouldn't special order anything at that point, and let it ride. As long as you break it in good, you'll be fine. The second you start getting traction is when your clutch is going to have problems.
Yeah, keep the street tires on; it'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here.
Oh man, look at that! Look at what Tall Garage said.
Yeah, if Levi raced as good as he talked BS, he'd probably win more races.
Oh.
And then Levi says, "When did you become a comedian?" You know, like you two, I can't wait till both of you guys show up at the track and like
feed you drinks and see what happens.
Yeah, just race each other.
Yeah,
it's just gonna happen. Either that, or you guys are like, you're crushing on each other and your bro friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So are either one of them going to have? So Levi's going to have a car. Is anyone else? Is Tall going to have a car or no?
I don't know. Tall was working on the LS 300 Ford. Yeah, so I don't know if he's done with that yet or not.
Oh. He won't race me. He's scared.
Well, I think Tall also has he's got an S10 or a Ranger with a turbo LS in it.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. So he might bring that thing down.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know.
Make that thing go.
But all right. Well, so here's something that Professor P and I have been kicking around for the past couple of days. Rotational mass and weight.
Yes.
What's the benefits of it? Let's see. Let me see.
Oh, that's actually another question.
Yeah. Do trans blankets have an expiration on them like seat belts and helmets?
Mine did.
Yeah, mine does too. But you can't read it anymore because it's soaked up so much transmission fluid that it doesn't even matter.
And also, too, if you put the SFI rating on the top, what's up against the belt housing, you can't read it, man.
I only had one place go through the whole car looking at every SFI sticker on the whole thing, and that was Fontana. That was Fontana.
Yeah.
6 hours in tech for the first event I went to. 6. I couldn't believe it. My car, 6 hours. Not like I just waited in line. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. John was saying that Ram clutches for the win. I agree with you, John. Yeah, there was a time where you could get Ram clutches at Craig and Auto Parts, and yeah, I had a Ram clutch in one of my darts. It worked well.
So Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says I wouldn't get McLeod clutch. My uncle tried 3 in Super B long time ago though. McLeod that's actually the high end stuff. I don't. Well, so is Center Force, I guess, but stick shift stuff, I just kind of stick with whatever seems to work for everyone. Unfortunately, my super stock 63 Buick, I'm going to have to do with whatever I can get. And really, that I'm limited just by flywheels. But the clutch I got for mine is a dual disc, so it should bite pretty good.
Yeah. Kedge was asking about torque and rotational mass. Here's the thing: is don't get too light of a flywheel. It was actually 3 up from that one. Mr. Kaji, I wouldn't get too light of a flywheel because, especially in a street driver, shifting gears and accelerating is going to be harder with a lighter flywheel. It's better for racing, but as far as for driving, you want to keep that stored energy to accelerate, and especially shifting gears, it makes it much smoother because it'll keep the RPMs up as you drop, so you're not dropping faster and then getting that jerk when you go into gear. So I really wouldn't worry about it for the street. I would just get decent stuff, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, he's 100% right. That's your inertia.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
Stored energy. Keep that. You want that.
yeah. Levi's Backyard Performance says I dropped 15 pounds of rotational weight in the front of the car. Obviously a roundabout number, not exact. 30 pounds total from brakes.
That's unsprung weight.
Yeah, that's the biggest weight savings that you're going to do on the car.
Yeah, unsprung weight is the biggest thing. Absolutely.
Let's see. Buick Smith is saying, oh, how did I not click on it? Okay. Buick Smith is saying, do you need a battery shutoff if the battery is in the front, but it is a lithium battery? But technically you do not. But I don't know if I'd bring that lithium battery unless that's a car you're driving there.
I'm not a big fan of them. No, I actually have regular batteries. I'll take the hit on the weight for the safety factor of having a regular battery.
Well,
lithium batteries have issues.
What was it, like 2017, 2018? There was like a rash of trailer fires. Everybody couldn't figure out why these trailers were catching on fire.
It's the batteries.
And that's the battery. Yeah. The batteries were getting hot in the car and burning up.
And we look at all these scooters and burning up and all that stuff. They're all lithium batteries. They're just too light of a battery. They still haven't perfected. I like the lead acid, and I'll take the weight hit.
Yeah. Well, I guess the most advanced that I get with mine is the absorbed glass mat, AGM batteries. Those seem to work pretty good.
Yeah.
Miss Kanchi says Aussie Clevos had 11-inch clutch. Good heavy ones, Shane.
Perfect. You'll be good. You'll love it. And just use the gear, because once you're in gear, especially at 500 horse, just roll into it and that thing's going to just tear down the road, and then shift it and be good.
Let's see. Okay. I guess that's it. I think we're caught up.
Yeah, no switch. Yeah.
So, yeah, this is the light show. We haven't had this few people in a while.
Really?
Yeah, we're only looking at 35, 37.
Oh, whatever. It is what
Usually
it is.
we do better than that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Still good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like we're making our living at this. We're just doing it for them, you know. If they want to join, awesome, you know.
I'm just kind of surprised. We usually do bigger numbers than that. Now we're at 38. Oh, someone just left. So we're at 37. Okay.
Damn it. I am going to bring up something, though. Someone was asking me about plugs. And I posted 2 little tiny videos, shorts about, how to save some money and do plugs. Now, this will work on all plugs, but this is a trick I used to do when I used to race motocross. And I was running 2-strokes, and we used to foul out just, basically carbon foul plugs all the time. And then what I would do is I would take this much white distilled vinegar, you set them in there, and on NGKs, you can get away with this because they have really good coatings on them. And you can put them in there just 24 hours. That's all it needs. In white distilled vinegar, I dilute it slightly. Then when I take it out, baking soda and water neutralizes the acids. So you just pull it out, dip it in that, toothbrush and WD-40, and then all that stuff comes right off. Now, when I run those nitrous on those, probably not. But will I use those for like testing nitrous? So if I already have a setup tune-up, so if I know that a 200 shot does this and this is my setup, absolutely. I'll only use the fresh plugs for like new tune-ups, or if I'm still not 100% on tune-up. Or you can use those plugs for warm-up, because in a nitrous car, especially when you're running a lot of nitrous, you want to have a set of plugs to warm it up, change them out. That way, when you go to the line, you have a set of fresh plugs. You don't have any carbon on, no chance of detonation. So that's it. It does work really good. So
that's what's cool about nitrous was, like, I don't know how many sets of plugs I'd take with me to the track.
Yep.
And you'd end up just going through like all of them until you found one that you can put in. Like, oh, this was a brand new one. All right, I'm gonna put this in and check my tune. All right, but you just end up going through plugs more than anything else in the whole car. And I got to be very good at changing plugs.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh no, I'm right there. In fact, I did see a little bit of. I do have, now that I'm getting up there in my tune, getting closer to my tune, I have found where I'm starting to get different air fuel mixtures on plugs now, because it is a plate. So it's not a fogger system, it's a plate. So in a couple cylinders, I'm at, I'm still within the safety margin, but if I go beyond that, it will definitely be one will be on the verge where these ones are still away from that. So I'm
Right.
finding that limit.
One will
And
be
I still,
lean and the others will be fat, or it'll be one will be fat, the rest of them are lean.
believe it or not, it's the timing. It's the timing marks. It's not the fat. It's the timing marks on the plug. On some of them, it's at the
Oh, so it's
very,
getting more nitrous than the other
yeah. So
nitrous and fuel than the
yeah.
other.
So but what's funny is that they look identical except for the timing mark is just farther. Like on some of them, it's at the very top of the curve, or on some of them, it's still, on
At
the
the very
flat part.
beginning of part of the curve.
Yeah, it's still on the flat because I'm still ways away from a timing. I'm still beyond the 2 for 50 horsepower. 2 degrees for every 50 horsepower.
So Michael Schmidt says, do you guys usually use NGK plugs because they read more consistently and
Yes.
accurately?
No, and not only that, but they're good plugs, and they work and they're consistent. And I've gone through probably 120 plugs since I've been tuning this thing in the last year. And every single one, I've not had one plug that's been bad. That's a good number, really good.
So NGK, when I was a youngster, NGK was like the third level of plug that you would get out of all of them, right? Like you had Autolights were generally like the number one plug.
Mm-hmm. At that
And
time,
then
yes.
after Autolights, you had a couple of people like there'd be a mixture of stuff. You could get an AC Delco plug, or you could get like a Motorcraft plug would fit in there. They're high quality stuff. And then generally you had your NGK. Now with Autolights are all made in China. If you didn't know that, like Tony DeFeo and I did a Wednesday night tech talk where all he did, because I told him like one of these plugs, I cracked it by installing it. And he was like, no way. I said, they're so weak. And so I bought some and he side gapped one and it split the ceramic in half all the way down. Right. So if you are not keeping abreast of the things going on in the automotive world where your parts are becoming garbage,
It's true.
NGK is still made in Japan. They're a high quality plug.
Yeah.
I haven't had any of them fail.
No.
Champions are garbage. Autolights are garbage. AC Delcos are made in China, so I might as well just buy something else. And I don't know where Motorcrafts are made, but they don't carry them anymore. Like you used to be able to just go in the parts store and get them anywhere. You can't carry. They don't carry them.
It's funny. We talked about this probably about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and you were telling me about the Autolights were made in China, and I was slightly fighting you on it because I was like, no, I have Autolights, and it says Heco de Mexico right on them. But it was because I bought so many of them. I bought one of those huge boxes.
After like 2018, they're all made in China now.
Yeah, exactly. So now I've gone to NGKs into my Slant 6s now.
Miss Cat G, Bosch plugs used to be really good. I don't know if they are anymore because I don't know where they're made, and they're hard. Just like the Motorcraft, nobody carries them, so they're hard for us to get it. Right? They'd rather cram this cheap junk down your throat and then mark it up big time. So I stay away from them. Let's see here. Blue Brick Garage, a friend ran an aluminum flywheel on a 67 289 Mustang 444 rear gear at autocrosses. He said it helped with braking because as soon as he let off the gas, it would slow down, broke a lot of parts.
Yes, that's going to happen.
Yeah, but it didn't have all the inertia, the stored energy there.
Yeah, my 68 Dart,
it's
got aluminum flywheel.
Dynamo. That's what they used to call them.
Yeah, but my 68 Dart, he's got an aluminum flywheel. I think it's an 11-pound flywheel.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, but it's got a twin. Now, to be fair, it does have a twin disc clutch on it. It's I forget which clutch it is. I think it's a spec clutch. It's like in 9-inch or something like that, 9 or 8-inch. But together, it does have some weight. It's like 20 pounds with everything on it. But that's it. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Blue Grit Garage is saying Autolikes are junk. Damn. Well, I was watching Engine Masters from, I don't know, maybe 2020, 2021, 2022, somewhere around there. And they had bought a new set of Autolights, and they were talking about how it said they were made in Japan. And they put it in an engine, and it started misfiring. And this was something that they had a junk ignition system on, like, I don't know what they put it in a big block Ford, like 514 cubic inch big block Ford, and bought a parts store distributor, used plug wires and used plugs, and put it all in there and just see what would happen when you improve the ignition. Excuse me.
I remember this video.
They bought new plugs,
and it was crap.
And it started missing
Yeah.
right when they put them in. And it was like, what in the world? That should have cleaned it all up. And it got worse than a used set of plugs. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. No, I like my NGK plugs. Yeah, I like them. Oh, Nip and Denso. That was the one. I couldn't remember the name of it. Nip and Denso.
Yeah,
that's a good plug too.
Denso plugs. I don't think they make them anymore. I haven't been able to find those. Let's see here. Levi's Backyard Performance. I actually work in an NGK plant. They make catalytic converter ceramic, but in the 50s, the plugs were made there. I think they're made in Japan. Let's see. Michael Schmidt says, how do you read plug threads? And when do you put an additional washer?
Oh, he's talking about indexing. You should really check that before you put the heads on. I do that a lot. So I'll take plugs. I've indexed plugs, okay, and I'm not at that level of looking for that little horsepower. To me, it didn't make any difference. I tried it on dynos. I had a chassis dyno. I knew exactly where it was at, and really, basically, on the additional washer just means that you're trying to get the plug out of, if you're running an astronomical amount of compression and whatnot. But that was a thing that when you couldn't buy as many plugs as they've got plugs now for everything. And you say you had a projected type of plug where it was projecting into the combustion chamber, you run an extra washer just to get it back. Or if you've got a bunch of oil, remember that when they would sell those spacers to pull the plug out because it would oil foul because your engine was burning so much oil. Yeah.
Well, so plug threads, how you read plug threads, that's all based on heat as well. How many threads down, and that tells you essentially, do you need a hotter or a colder plug, right? And it really what that's looking at is your threads are really just the seat at where it sits in the head, but then your electrode goes through the center, and where that electrode gets hot and it warms up that metal around it, because that ceramic gets hot, right? That's why it's made of ceramic. And it gets so hot that it will heat some of those threads up. And what you're looking at for like generally is like what, 2.5 to 4 threads in, where you can see some temperature color on them. And that's when you know your heat range is correct on your plug. Because a heat range, what it does is that electrode is either moved in further or out further. It's moved into the chamber further or it's out of the chamber further. And to have the correct heat range is ideal because you can, one, the plugs will foul a lot easier if you got too cold a plug in it, right? If you got the too hot a plug in it, they'll generally detonate really bad, or they'll diesel after you turn them off.
There you go. That's out of my car. That's a number 10 on 250 shot. So that's about what you're looking for right there.
And generally, when you're reading a plug, you're just going to look at the threads here. The other thing that you're going to look at is the strap on the back. You want to see a identifiable witness mark in the middle of that strap.
You can see it right. It's hard to see it, but it's right there. Where's my?
You want to see it in the middle of the curve on the strap because that means your timing is ideal. The other thing that's interesting is not so much the ceramic right there at the electrode,
but farther in.
So what you do is you cut the threads off
right there. Yep. Cut
and
it
then
off
you
right
look
there.
at the base of the ceramic in the essentially inside the spark plug. Yeah, and that's where I do collect stuff.
Yeah, and what I do with that is I have just a cordless drill. I turn it, and then I have a cutoff wheel, and so I just turn that on and just cut it off, and then that slides right off, and you can look at. Or since on these plugs, they're really cold plug. You can look down right in there with a magnifying glass and light. And you can just see the mark.
They
and
used to
how
make a
far it's coming
tool
up.
that had a magnifying glass and light on it that you could literally slide the plug in and then just look right through it, and you could see that thing. The problem is the glare with those is actually pretty. It's difficult to read the plug with those things on there. It's easier just to cut the whole dang thing off because you're not going to reuse that plug again anyway.
No. Well, I can now. I'm getting closer to my tune-up. Yeah.
All right, Michael Schmidt's asking how many threads can be exposed in the cylinder.
That's an ambiguous question because it really depends on your setup. What are you doing? Power adders, if it's NA, how much compression, whatnot. I typically don't like to have more than one thread.
That's about all you want to see in it.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't technically be threading into the chamber at all.
Anything, yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says, I put champions in my dad's truck, had to take them back out and put the old plugs back in.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's it.
Yeah, I understand that, man. Dude, in fact, some of these Slant 6s that I picked up have some old school champions in them, like the old ones, and I've taken them out, cleaned them, and I've actually ran them in my Slant 6, and they actually run perfect. So I started keeping those. I used to just take them out and throw them away. Now I'm like, oh man, this is an old part and it's good. I'm going to keep this.
Well, that's how I am with plugs because you can't hardly get good plugs anymore.
Yeah.
So Blue Grit Garage says, I thought indexing a plug was to get the open end of the gap towards the center of the cylinder. That's correct.
Yep.
So you put a dot with a marker on the ceramic so you know where it is pointed when it's installed. That's true. But you would put washers on them to index that thing where it was pointing where you wanted it.
But sometimes, but remember, sometimes you have to put a bigger washer, and it's usually you got to go in or out. So sometimes you're taking it away, moving it out of the chamber, or putting it into the chamber to get to that. I'm just telling you from my experience, for what us people, especially the people in this chat and who's on this talk, that really is not going to make any difference to you. I would spend time doing something else to make you go faster. That it would be the very end of the
right.
power
When you're
levels.
looking for every single horsepower that you can possibly get, and there's nothing left, you index the plugs.
A tenth of a horsepower. You know what I mean? That's like, that is like, it's going to be this much, you know. I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah. Levi's saying I read somewhere the indexing was not worth anything. There's a lot of things that a lot of old racer tricks that they say is not worth anything, but there is merit to them.
It is merit.
And that's why they've never been really dispelled, because it's a lot of it's like, okay, do you know how application specific the camshaft is? You might buy a crappy cam that you thought was the worst cam in the world, and you had it in your 302 Ford, but your buddy puts the same cam, same profile in a 383 Dodge. It's the best cam he's ever had, right?
Yeah.
It is so dependent upon chamber and compression ratio and headers and intake manifold and the correct carburetor and the correct curve in the distributor. And that's how that works. Well, it's the same thing with like indexing plugs, the header diameter, right? Like header diameter is one of those things that's always going to be a mystery to everyone. You know, the bigger the better, the bigger the better. That's not always the case. If you make, let's say, 300 horsepower and you have a tow rig and it's making 450 foot-pounds of torque, you want the smaller diameter header. It's going to have a higher velocity coming out of there, which is going to create more suction on that header, on the tubes, and pull more air and fuel in easier. And it's going to create better low-end torque. It's going to have a broader torque band, actually.
I'm going to say one more thing about indexing plugs. The only reason why I've ever indexed a plug is if I was getting, this is going to be a topic for later, but it would be fuel wash. If the fuel coming in was actually washing the plug, you might have a little bit of you can see it on the actual plug itself where that happens. You'll see one side of the plug is cleaner than the other. But once again, this is way down the line. But that's the only time where I would index ahead is that our plug is when I would notice that, okay, this plug's getting washed. How was it in? Okay, it was right here. And then I might rotate it a little bit to get that wash out. But other than that, it's not worth it to me.
So Old McDonald Has a Car is asking, what about multiple electrode plugs?
Never had any luck with them. They didn't do anything to me.
There was, well, was it the Rapid Fire? Who was the one that created the ring around it?
Yeah, was it the E3? It's E3 spark plug, wasn't it? That it had three.
Maybe so, because okay, what was funny is people were buying them E3s like they were going out of style when they first came out, and they're like 3 times or 4 times more expensive than a regular plug.
Yeah,
but way back in the day, Excel, I think was who it was, made a
split fire.
Well, before that, you had the original U groove.
Yes,
it was like a dual groove in the electro or in the ground strap.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And it didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, split fire came out, and everybody was buying them up. Oh man, I put these split fires in and gained 37 horsepower.
No.
I'm going to say that your plugs were fouled when you took them out to gain that kind of power on them. But
I tested all this on my dyno. I tested every single one of these things. I did the E3, I did the split fire. I can't remember all of them, but there was one that was like, there was a Bosch that was literally a ring that and then there was one that was it was just
that's the one I was talking about. The Bosch had the ring. It had the threads and it had a ring all the way around, which was the electrode, and it would never wear down. It was like a triple platinum tip or iridium tip, double iridium tip, the electrode on it. And then you had that ring. There was no place for it to wear out. But here's the thing is like you couldn't gap it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly where I lost power on some of them, because depending on the compression ratio, I couldn't gap them to bring it down. So like a 6AL box with say a Blaster 2 coil or whatever it was, right? They tell you at like 10-1, you're going to have them at say 45,000 or 55,000. Well, how can you gap one of those things? So you could just put them in their stock. On some of the cars, I would actually be losing power because the gap was too far, because it was a higher compression. It couldn't make the gap. It couldn't jump it.
The big one was the street race scene when everybody was trying to use those plugs, because somebody figured out they do make more power because there's no electrode block, or there's no ground strap blocking the electrode.
Yeah, it's right in the center. Yeah.
But it was okay until you started putting nitrous in the mix and the cylinder pressure went up. And then it would blow them plugs out and like, oh, melt them. It's missing and it's popping, and it like, wonder what's going on. You pull them apart and they weren't like a regular plug where they'd melt the electrode off first, or not the electrode, the ground strap off first. What would happen is like
the glow plug.
That thing, the electrode would get so hot on one side, it'd be discolored.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, wonder what that's all about.
That's the fuel wash coming in, because there's no way for it to cool down. It was so hot in there. And here's the thing is that I was running carbureted cars. Now, maybe on like say the Hondas at the time, those might have worked because they had computer control, they could send cylinder, they can check all that stuff. They had, coil on plug type of deal. But for what we were doing, I ran them on the dyno. I knew the engine made 450 horsepower to the tires. Not one of them made more than just a regular old, at that time, a good Autolite or a good NGK. They didn't make one extra horsepower at all.
So Buick Smith says, is it true that you can cut the metal electrode off the plug back to the timing mark? Yes, that's side gapping them. And it technically opens up the electrode so more air and fuel get in there. But like you were saying, there's really no gain to it. It probably, if anything, it's just lowering your compression by 1,000th.
Now, but that's on a naturally aspirated car, 100%. Right. But when you're dealing with a nitrous car, even that timing mark, that's not where it's firing. It's firing here, but the heat is glowing to that line. So because as you get higher in the nitrous, you got to bring that gap closer and closer and closer. I'm down to about 15. Oh no, I'm at 20,000s now of gap because of how much nitrous and compression I've got. So yeah, you can't back cut that on any power adder type thing. That's just telling you where the heat is staying into the cylinder.
So Miss Catchy's saying 12.5 to 1 toluene.
I've
What
never
gap?
ran Tourling.
I don't know what that is, but
It's a type
there's
of
this.
fuel.
I'm sure it's just some combustible fuel.
Yeah.
And you got 12.5 to 1 compression. The easiest thing to do, I don't know what ignition system you have. A Magneto is where this would be ideal. And a Magneto is like 20 thousandths. But if you have just a regular ignition system, the easiest place to start is 35 thousandths, right? You can always go more based on, because technically 12.5 to 1, you want to have it down around 35, 40 thousandths at the most. That's a lot of compression, and that's a lot of cylinder pressure, and it will keep it from arcing across the gap. What was I going to say? The lower the compression, the larger the gap you can run, and the more power it seems to make when you open up that gap.
Just has more chance to propagate the current, the flame kernel across. But then at the same time, the more cylinder pressure you have, the harder it is for it to jump that gap.
So Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says, I think I have a small engine repair shop now. I've been fixing generators, four-wheelers, and mowers every day. Everyone has something that doesn't run from crappy gasoline clogging the carburetor. It's the
100%.
ethanol. Yeah, it's the ethanol.
Exactly. I go down, I call it diet fuel. I get that ethanol-free fuel, and I run that in all my equipment.
Small engine stuff, all my small engine stuff gets non-ethanol fuel.
My lawnmower, my generator, everything I have, I put that stuff in it, and I never have any problems with that stuff.
Huh.
Yeah.
So Miss Catchy's saying it's methylbenzene. So
methylbenzene. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. 320 psi according to Tim Meyer Racing, cranking compression.
Wow.
So, yeah, you might want to.
That's a little high.
That stuff like 20 thousandths.
Yeah, because
like 20 thousandths.
No, I think that she might have miswrote that, because it might be 230. Because if my engine is 13.5 to 1, I have a big cam, so a lot of overlap on it. Mine is 210 cranking compression, 215 actually cranking compression. So if she's that number with a smaller camshaft, I would believe 230 cranking compression. I think she's off on the 320. That's a lot. Like,
that's
like diesel.
Yeah, 22 psi or 22 to 1 compression ratio.
Yeah.
Let's see. Buick Smith says, what were those plugs that had a ground strap on each plug? And the ad would show a ball of electricity instead of a
Nology. Yeah. Well, the plug wires were called Nology plug wires. I think he's what he's talking about. So Nology wires had a little ground strap, and they had a capacitor in the wire. So what it would do is it would store the energy, and it would make, instead of making a longer spark, it made a short, hotter spark. So it would make a big flash, once again, I tried them. They didn't make any more power because you're having a faster, hotter spark, because you're not going to gain any more power from the coil. The coil is only going to put out X amount of power. It's only going to go through the distributor. All the Nology wire does is it basically takes all that power, stores it into one, and it dumps it faster. It's just a capacitor. And so that's all it's doing. And so you would go to these like car shows, and you would have this guy who push a button, you'd see this little blue arc, and you push this other button, it was this big ball of flame.
Oh, I remember seeing those at the swap meet in San Diego.
Yes, exactly. That was the Nology wire. So they were based out of that area. So they're really popular out there. That I got a set. I put them on. It didn't make any. In fact, I had to change the timing because it was dumping so fast, but it was because it would store the energy and then dump it. It was milliseconds, but it would show up on the timing because it was dumping at one time. And then it was erratic because depending on how much energy,
but I couldn't time the car. I couldn't run the timeline.
Yeah, it was hard to run the timeline. So I had to run like this inductive deal. Oh man, it was terrible. So so I had to put it in there and I had to play with it just by ear, and it didn't make any more power.
So apparently Miss Catchy's saying that's the ignition pressure. Ignition pressure, 300 psi.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay. SSR Performance says crazy the plug gap you can run with a set of CDI. Spark is so strong, you end up changing your timing numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking like MSD box?
Yeah. Well, CDI is like a
capacitive discharge.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's he is right because it's so strong. Yeah.
Yeah. Aunt D saying the spark plug only starts the process of combustion. That's it. And plug is like, that's like the last thing that I look at, right? I mean, it's literally like the last thing that I look at.
Yeah.
And I'm real simple. I just like go with what that's already proven, right? A set of NGKs, just a decent set of middle grade wires, a cap with brass terminals on it. And if you're going to run points, buy the Excel points. They're totally worth it because they still have the instead of having just that plastic rubbing block on them, they got that freaking
felt.
No, not they still have felt on them, but they have what is the phenolic rubbing block.
Oh, okay,
right?
good. Yeah.
So, and that's what makes them really strong is when they're phenolic.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the ones I've been running, but they're like $30 a set, $35 a set. Oh yeah, SSR Performance is like CDI coils.
Yeah, I think I know what you meant. Yeah.
That's why I skipped over it. I couldn't quite figure out what it was, but it's like, man, you put the rest of the sentence together, it's probably going to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But so Levi's out. He says, "All right, got to get a shower, get up early, keep plugging on your subs. Y'all got this." So see you later, Dylan. And let's see. Yeah, I might call her early one tonight too. It's just going slow, and I am just not feeling it today. I overworked myself, so I got sunburnt, and I'm like tired.
You drink enough water?
Yeah, I did actually.
Yeah,
I drank. Yeah, I probably drank a gallon or more. But then when I went to take a leak, it was like mustard. So I don't know.
Yeah. I agree with him because my NGK is basically just a split V style plug. It's just your standard V groove plug.
That's the Power V.
Yeah, it works great.
It
works
does.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't overthink this. Just stick with something that's worked forever. I mean, if they were good enough to run in top fuel cars back in the 70s, they're good enough to run in your junk on the street.
Well, yeah. If you think about if this is your electrode coming out, the electricity has to basically cover all this before it goes across. With the split V, you basically cut that in half. So now you basically only have to propagate electricity across the surface of that before it jumps the gap. So it's a much smaller area. That's all it is. But it's not so small like on a Bosch Platinum where it starts to glow red. Those things are detonation machines.
I was thinking that those things work good the opposite way. When you cut a groove in the electrode, it makes more surface area, just like when you have like a heat sink on a two-stroke.
But it's smaller surface area where it's going to jump the gap.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yes, because it will propagate on the top, the closest. So obviously it can jump anywhere, but typically it's going to propagate across the surface of the closest area. So in that groove, it's going to go. And because the groove is in line, it's going to propagate on both sides, come up to the strap. And I was looking in my groove with my glasses because I'm still trying to sneak up on my tune. And I still have yet to put considerable heat into my chamber yet. I still haven't even.
Yeah, I haven't got hot.
I haven't got hot yet. Yeah.
So Aunt D saying standard copper plugs work fine. My understanding is that platinum, iridium, etc., are just for longevity. That's the whole purpose of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't make the spark any hotter or easier or anything like that. It's just a coating so that the electrode does not like cook off.
Yeah,
because that's what happens. Is it's essentially just cooking off.
Yeah, so that's we're going full John Wilburn here. That's just your standard V groove. So all it has to do is just propagate across that surface before it jumps the gap.
Yeah, that's an NGK V power plug.
Yes, they're the greatest plug. I think I used to run these in my motorcycle all the time, and I forgot how awesome they were, and literally indestructible. I love them.
Mama M3 saying the heat has sapped all my energy for the past 2 months, so I can sympathize. All right. Clayton's Toolbox. I have 355 gears in my Pinot. I'm about 5,500 RPM at the end of the quarter mile. mid to high 11s, 115 to 118. I think the Pinto should peak horsepower about 6,300. Do you think a gear change would help ET? Well, I don't know what engine you're running, but if it's in a Pinto and you're running a V8, it's probably like a 302 small block Ford setup. And I know the small block Ford really likes 373 to 410
I was just
gears.
going to say that. I was going to say start with 373. But remember, when you go to the gear, your stall RPM on your converter is going to go down because it's going to have more load into it. So if you're normally stalling at 2,500 or whatever it was, it's going to go to 2,200 now with a change of gear. It's going to go down.
Yeah, because you've multiplied the torque, right?
Exactly.
With rear gear. So it's not loading the converter as bad.
Exactly.
So but I think 373 to 410 is the ideal gear ratio for a 302 small block Ford, something that's streetable, something that runs 11s. The problem is you're going to have to really think about this one because you're starting to get to the cusp of 410 is probably the maximum you could do for streetable gear, right? Anything beyond 410 is going to be pretty inefficient. 373 will just be starting to tickle your fancy, but you'll notice a big difference between that 355 and 373. If you want to split the difference, they make 390 gears, and you can split the difference on it, and it'll probably be kind of the best you could get. You know, it wouldn't be great at the drag strip, but it wouldn't be horrible on the street. So,
and what was his? He's saying what was his RP as mile an hour? What was it? 118. He said
115 to 118.
Okay, so I'm just doing here. So I'm calculating speed right now. Okay, so he's definitely running a smaller tire.
Yeah, I'd say 28 is probably a good guess.
26. So I just went to yeah. So what I do is I go to Tremec has got a really good thing. If you just hit in Tremec gear ratio, you can do that. So right now I have it as a 5,500 RPM with a 355 gear and a 26 tire with a obviously a 1-to-1 that comes out to 119.84 considering converter slippage. Sounds about right. So so then if you go to with that same combination, the same converter slippage, a 373, that is going to put you at, for let's say 122, because you're going to RPM a little bit harder. So 6,200 RPM. Yeah, so a 373 at 6,200 is going to put you at about 128. So he might even be a 411.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's where you split the difference from the 390.
Yeah, so 6,500. Yeah, so 6,500 with a 411, and that tire is going to put you at 122 miles an hour. So yeah, so if you can get a 390, that might be your number. Yeah, 390 would actually do it because that would put you right at about 6,200 RPM and 122 miles an hour. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, 390 if you can.
And that's Chris Cox said the same thing. He says, I run a 389 with 389 gear with 26-inch tall tire in the Fox and hits the trap 66 to 6,800.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yep. No, he's at a 4,000 stall. Yeah.
All right. So Buick Smith is saying, never thought of that. So 1,800 stall with a 355 gear with a glide might be 2,200 with 254 gear. That's correct. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, it's going to go way up. In fact, that actually is happening in my Slant 6 right now. Is that I put it. It's not doesn't make any torque, but I got a 273 gear in it, so it's actually stalling quite a bit to like say 2,300, but it's got a lockup converter. So yeah, exactly.
Max Wedge Dick Dashley agrees. He says 390 gears are nice street strip gears. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, that's where this kind of falls right in the middle.
I love 391s. When I had those in my car, I could drive from Poway to like Escondido, and with my 250 shot, I would bring it right in second gear. It was perfect.
Well, like with today's overdrive transmissions, and I noticed a lot of Dodge Durangos came with 391 gears. Even the Ram trucks today come with 390 gears. But with overdrives, that makes that 390 gear out like a 293 gear when it's an overdrive.
Yeah, some of
So
them have like 4 overdrives or 3 overdrives. Yeah, but the reason why they're trying to get away from a lot of that though is because of that RPM of the drive shaft. It's that critical speed. But remember, some of these things have like the 4 or 5 inch drive shaft diameter. So
right.
you know,
Well, let's see. Aunt D says, and I got some wicked heartburn tonight. Okay, Aunt D. Also on plugs, last time I played with nitrous, I trimmed the ground strap a little bit and rounded off the sharp edges and changed the gap. I can't remember what I changed it to though. You
it was
probably
smaller.
tightened it up.
Yeah, smaller. Yeah, yeah. Here's my. This is a. I know I've showed this picture a few times, but I'm going to bring it back up again. This right here. This is my tune-up for. That right there. That's my tune-up for. That is a 20,000 gap for a 200 and that was a 250 shot. I think is what that one was. It was 200 or 250. Yeah, I think. So, and I still need to put. You can tell here. Where's it? Right here. There's no heat in the chamber. That's still.
Yeah, you can see that actually the carbon starting to pill up on there.
Exactly. That's the carbon filling up on it. And that was a fresh pass. And so it's, I'm
There's no
still
heat on
taking.
that. Yeah, there's no heat on that on the wiring there at all.
No.
So
And I'm
otherwise
only
the
at.
carbon wouldn't build up on it. It would just burn right off.
Yeah. So what's that? 2? That's 4, 8. I'm only at 10 degrees of timing taken out. I could probably start adding in, like, say, another degree, check it again, put another degree in it. But yeah, you're really going to speed up then at that point.
Yeah, you might want to see how things work if you start it up, let it warm up to get the thermostat open and see how it runs.
Me?
So I think, yeah.
Oh, my shit's hot. When I do a burnout and all that stuff, it's 180 degrees before I get up into the line.
Oh, really? Okay.
I have no
I
thermostat in it.
I learned that a while ago. Is that sometimes you find that a little bit of heat in them actually makes it run better.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. In fact, I have concrete in mine, so I only have like 2 gallons of water in mine now. So I only have about this much water in the block, an inch and a half of water. The rest of it's up in the head, and so I use the. I get that thing nice and hot, and it'll stay hot for a long time. Now that I put the smaller radiator in it, I'll go up into the box at 150. By the time I come out of the water box, it's at 180. I go down the track and I flip the fans on, and it's good to go.
Buick Smith said I had a 73 Electra 225 with a 455 Buick and a 390 Posi rear end turbo 400. That thing would launch great. And that's one heavy car, 73. Yes. That's a big sucker. So,
but it's also that 455 is like the ultimate torque monster too.
Oh yeah, and it would get out of its own way fast.
Yeah.
But man, I can only imagine what kind of fuel mileage that 455 got with a 390 gear. My God.
I agree with him. I had a 456 with a 4-speed, and it was literally only third. I would use second gear just to start, and then it was third and fourth gear when I had like 295 50-15s on the back. I agree. When I put the slicks on, it was good, 28s. But when I had the street tires on it, that's all I needed was literally, if it was rolling at all, third and fourth gear. That's all I would need.
Well, I'm gonna throw some 486s in the 63 Buick, so that's the gear I'm going to run, and I think I'm going to set it up to run the quarter mile, and then I'll play with it from there because I don't think I'm going to make it to Sega stuff, and I don't know if I want to anymore now that they're not even shifting with the clutch.
No.
So, yeah. All right. Well, man, I'm telling you, man, I think I'm going to end it early tonight if you're keen for that, because I am just not feeling it tonight. I am not feeling good.
The last thing I want to talk about is, don't forget, we're trying to get Barkley up so that way he can race. Mr. Dallas here, and heads up. And I still have a call out on Mr. Mopar Joe, so I'm gonna keep that going. So yeah, I call out Mr. Mopar Joe. So he needs to get his stuff together. So remember that. I'm calling him out, and it's gonna be a match race. It's gonna be a 2 out of 3 deal.
Oh, for you and Mr. Mopar Joe?
Well, we haven't discussed it, but I'm just saying it is.
I think you're going to find it. You're going to run into each other somewhere around the 28-10-5.
Yeah, but I think we're going to have something after that too, because I want to be able to turn it up some more. Yeah, I want a good race.
Huh.
I would like it to because here's the thing is that Mopar Joe doesn't have a trans brake, right? I think he's a foot brake guy, right? So if it's an instant green, just to make it fair, I would like to have at least a pro tree, so that way if he's on a foot brake, that way we can actually have a race. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But man, everybody's telling me goodbye. Hey, see you next week. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut it a little bit short tonight. I haven't done that in a while, but I just am not feeling it. I think I got too much sun. But Big Block 402 saying picking up my heads for the 481 tomorrow. I have a call out with 2Hex T-Bird. That's cool. Candy cane with 481 cubes. So, all right. Well, yeah, we're gonna call it an early night tonight.
That's good.
Yeah. Don't forget Friday, John Wilburn will be on. So you can go over there and check out what John Wilburn's got cooking. I mean, he's always got something cooking. Jalapeno cheddar broth, something. But yeah, he always has something pretty neat going on. And I think he's going to start bringing in racers for individual classes from the No Name Nationals. So
yeah, that's actually what he's going to be doing all this the rest of this month and the beginning of next month. He's going to start with, I think it's going to be monkey bike. Then he's going to bring some bracket racers, and he's going to bring some people the 28 10 50 classes, and then have us all up on the screen. And then some of us veterans who've been there a while, and so on and so forth. Just kind of so that way we can talk and have a little bit of fun. But yeah, go and check him out. John Wilburn, 7 Central. On his channel Friday night. Go check him out.
Yeah. And until I guess next Wednesday.
No, you gotta say your line. Until next time. Just like Fab right there says. They always say that. Until next time.
Oh well, do I always say something?
You always say until next time.
I like to say, see you cats on the flip side.
Oh, is that it? Is that your tagline?
Yeah, that's my 1970s. Oh, that's probably like my 1950s. See you cats on the flip side. Right.
Catch you later. Right.
All right. So we're out.
All right. Yeah. Take it easy, guys.